Sometime later, King Xerxes promoted Haman son of Hammedatha the Agagite over all the other nobles, making him the most powerful official in the empire. All the king's officials would bow down before Haman to show him respect whenever he passed by, for so the king had commanded. But Mordecai refused to bow down or show him respect. Then the palace officials at the king's gate asked Mordecai, "Why are you disobeying the king's command?" They spoke to him day after day, but still he refused to comply with the order. So they spoke to Haman about this to see if he would tolerate Mordecai's conduct, since Mordecai had told them he was a Jew. When Haman saw that Mordecai would not bow down or show him respect, he was filled with rage. He had learned of Mordecai's nationality. So he decided it was not enough to lay hands on Mordecai alone. Instead, he looked for a way to destroy all the Jews throughout the entire empire of Xerxes. So in the month of April, during the 12th year of King Xerxes' reign, lots were cast in Haman's presence. The lots were called Purim, to determine the best day and month to take action. And the day selected was the 7th of March, nearly a year later. Then Haman approached King Xerxes and said, "There is a certain race of people scattered through all the provinces of your empire who keep themselves separate from everyone else. Their laws are different from those of any other people, and they refuse to obey the laws of the king. So it is not in the king's interest to let them live. If it please the king, issue a decree that they be destroyed. And I will give 10,000 large sacks of silver to the government administrators to be deposited in the royal treasury." The king agreed, confirming his decision by removing his signet ring from his finger and giving it to Haman son of Hammedatha the Agagite, the enemy of the Jews. The king said, "The money and the people are both yours to do with as you see fit." So on the 17th of April the king's secretaries were summoned, and a decree was written exactly as Haman dictated. It was sent to the king's highest officers, the governors of the respective provinces, and the nobles of each province in their own scripts and languages. The decree was written in the name of King Xerxes and sealed with the king's signet ring. Dispatches were sent by swift messengers into all the provinces of the empire, giving the order that all Jews, young and old, including women and children, must be killed, slaughtered, and annihilated on a single day. This was scheduled to happen on the 7th of March of the next year. The property of the Jews would be given to those who killed them. This is a copy of Haman's letter. This letter is from the great King Xerxes to the governors of his 127 provinces from India to Ethiopia and to the officials under them. I rule over many nations and have brought all the world under my dominion, but in spite of my power, I have not grown arrogant. Instead, I choose to govern my subjects with fairness and kindness so that they may live quietly without any fear. Then they can travel safely throughout the kingdom and enjoy peace, as all people desire. When I asked my advisers how this might be accomplished, I received excellent counsel from Haman. He is a wise, kind, and faithful leader who is second in command of my kingdom. He told me that there is a hostile race of people scattered among all the nations and that the laws of these people are contrary to those of all nations. They despise the commands of kings and disrupt our attempt to unify our kingdom. This group constantly opposes all humanity by following strange lifestyles and laws, going against our commands, and disturbing the peace and unity of all our provinces. Therefore, we have decreed that everyone must follow the instructions given by Haman, who is in charge of the government and second in power only to the king, for we honor Haman as a second father to us. All members of this race he has identified are to be completely destroyed by their enemies, together with their wives and children, and no one is to have pity on them. This is to happen next spring on the 8th of March. So in a single day, all these people who have been hostile for so long come to a violent end, and we will restore to our empire the peace they have disturbed. The king's decree is published. A copy of this decree was to be issued as law in every province and proclaimed to all peoples, so that they would be ready to do their duty on the appointed day. At the king's command, the decree went out by swift messengers, and it was also proclaimed in the fortress of Susa. Then the king and Haman sat down to drink, but the city of Susa fell into confusion. When Mordecai learned about all that had been done, he tore his clothes, put on sackcloth and ashes, and went out into the city, crying with a loud and bitter wail. He went as far as the gate of the palace, for no one was allowed to enter the palace gate while wearing clothes of mourning. And as news of the king's decree reached all the provinces, there was great mourning among the Jews. They fasted, wept, and wailed, and many people lay in sackcloth and ashes. When Queen Esther's maids and eunuchs came and told her about Mordecai, she was deeply distressed. She sent clothing to him to replace the sackcloth, but he refused it. Then Esther sent for 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, one of the king's eunuchs who had been appointed as her attendant. She ordered him to go to Mordecai and find out what was troubling him and why he was in mourning. So 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 went out to Mordecai in the square in front of the palace gate. Mordecai told him the whole story, including the exact amount of money Haman had promised to pay into the royal treasury for the destruction of the Jews. Mordecai gave 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 a copy of the decree issued in Susa that called for the death of all Jews. He asked 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 to show it to Esther and explain the situation to her. He also asked 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 to direct her to go to the king to beg for mercy and plead for her people. So 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 returned to Esther with Mordecai's message. Then Esther told 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 to go back and relay this message to Mordecai. All the king's officials and even the people in the provinces know that anyone who appears before the king in his inner court without being invited is doomed to die unless the king holds out his golden scepter. And the king has not called for me to come to him for 30 days. So 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 gave Esther's message to Mordecai. Mordecai sent this reply to Esther: "Don't think for a moment that because you're in the palace you will escape when all other Jews are killed. If you keep quiet at a time like this, deliverance and relief for the Jews will arise from some other place, but you and your relatives will die. Who knows if perhaps you were made queen for just such a time as this?" Then Esther sent this reply to Mordecai: "Go and gather together all the Jews of Susa and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. My maids and I will do the same. And then, though it is against the law, I will go in to see the king. If I must die, I must die." So Mordecai went away and did everything as Esther had ordered him. Mordecai thought about all that the Lord had done, and then he began to pray. He said, "O Lord, Lord, Almighty King, You rule over all things, and no one can resist your will if you decide to save Israel. You made heaven and earth and all the wonders under heaven. You are Lord of all, and there is none who can resist you, Lord. You know all things, and you know that it was not out of pride or contempt or desire for glory that I refused to bow down to proud Haman. For I would willingly have kissed his feet to save Israel. But I did this so I would not place human glory before the glory of God. And I will not bow down to anyone except you, my Lord. And now, O Lord God and King, God of Abraham, spare your people, because our enemies are determined to destroy us and to wipe out the people who have been your possession from the beginning. Do not neglect us, your own people, whom you redeemed for yourself out of Egypt. Hear my prayer, and be merciful to us, your possession. Turn our mourning into joyful feasting so that we may live and praise your name. O Lord, do not destroy those who sing to you. And all Israel cried out in prayer to the Lord, for death was staring them in the face. Queen Esther, fearing the mortal danger that was at hand, also turned to the Lord for help. Taking off her royal robes, she put on garments suitable for weeping and mourning. Instead of precious ointments, she covered her head with ashes and dung. She purposely made herself unattractive and covered her beauty with her tangled and disheveled hair. Esther began to pray to the Lord, the God of Israel. She said, O my Lord, you alone are our King. Help me, since I am alone and have no other helper but you, and I am about to risk my life. From my earliest days my family and tribe have taught me that you, O Lord, chose Israel from among all nations. You chose our ancestors from those who came before them so that they would be your special possession forever. And you have done all that you promised them. We have sinned in your sight. You have handed us over to our enemies because we have worshipped their gods. You are just, O Lord. But now our enemies are not content to oppress us with bitter slavery. They have vowed to abolish the decree you yourself made, to destroy your special possession, to close the mouths of those who praise you, and to extinguish the fire on the altar and the glory of your temple. By doing this, they will give the Gentiles cause to praise their worthless idols and to exalt a mortal king forever. O Lord, do not surrender the scepter of your rule to gods that do not even exist. Do not let them laugh at our ruin. Turn their plan against them and destroy the man who began this attack against us. Remember us, O Lord. Show yourself to us in this time of trouble, and give me boldness, O King of gods and ruler of every power. Put eloquent words in my mouth in the presence of the lion, and cause him to hate our enemy so that he may be destroyed along with those who agree with him. But rescue us by your hand, and help me, O Lord, for I have no other helper but you. You know all things. You know that I hate the splendor of the wicked, and I abhor the bed of the uncircumcised and of any foreigner. You know what a bind I am in. I hate my crown, that sign of my proud position, yet I must wear it on my head when I appear in public. I detest it as a filthy rag and never wear it in private. I, your servant, have never eaten at Haman's table, nor have the king's banquets ever pleased me, nor have I drunk wine offered to idols. I am your servant, O Lord God of Abraham. Ever since I was brought here, I have rejoiced only in you, even to this day. O God, whose might is greater than all, hear the voice of those in despair, rescue us from the power of the wicked, and save me from my fear.